Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a 3-game slate here for Thursday night as we roll along in these NBA playoffs. A bunch of game sixes here that we will take a look at. We are going to kick things off in the Eastern Conference where the Toronto Raptors are still hanging around. 3-2 now is the series as it heads back to Toronto. So once again, no Matisse Thybulle for Philly, as we know. So we'll take a look at some of the best bets in this one, as well as all the other couple games. So do make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we will be bringing you each and every single playoff game with a video, as well as a player props video that we'll have for you. So yeah, continue to follow along with us and head to thelines.com. That's where we have the ability for you to get our great odds checker. Make sure you're getting the best juice. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, we got Philly -1.5 at Toronto after they were pretty not competitive in Game 5 at home. The Suns -2 at New Orleans after pulling out a big win at home to take the lead there. And the same thing with the Mavs, -2 at Utah after kicking the crap out of Utah, or maybe it was more just Utah deciding they're done with this whole playing together thing, scoring 77 points in that Game 5. But this is the spiciest game, the Sixers at Raptors now. I mean, I don't see Philly winning this one. I think it's really just a question of whether they're going to win in 7 and avoid this dubious distinction, or whether they're actually going to become the first team to blow a 3-0 lead. I don't know if this fulfills your Joel Embiid narrative that he's the real MVP, because now that he's hurt, they look like awful, maybe the worst team in the playoffs. And maybe, I don't know if it's just like he did hold them together through this residual Ben Simmons drama and how dysfunctional they are, because they are dysfunctional enough to blow this 3-0 lead. Absolutely. Look, the X's and O's are not really in their favor. When you take away Embiid, he was just tilting the whole gravity of the court in those first 3 games because he commanded so much respect. Toronto couldn't guard him one-on-one, especially with Scotty Barnes out. Well, Barnes is back, and he played 41 minutes, was a +13. And Toronto's throwing waves of 6'9" guys at Embiid and walling off Harden in the paint. They outscored the Sixers 29-11 in bench points last game. The Precious Achiuwa outscored James Harden 17-15, was a +10. Harden a -10. James Harden now is 0 for 10 on floaters in the series, shooting 36% from 3, which is the second most worst individual mark for a guy with 15 attempts. And he has more turnovers than field goals twice in this series. The Sixers have an overall 1.1 assist to turnover ratio in the last 3 games of this series. And in the fourth quarter, which I brought up last time, it's gotten even worse. They have a 0.56 assist to turnover ratio. That's just, you're not going to win any games like that. And this is something they struggled with in their final 2 regular season meetings with the Raptors too. 26 turnovers in the last 2 meetings, lost them both, including a very low scoring game where they scored 88 at home. Same exact production in this Game 5. I mentioned last time also no OG Anunoby or Fred VanVleet when they scored 88 and lost in that game. And Fred VanVleet is still playing limited minutes. Like, he's still really hobbled, but the Raptors have enough in terms of their wing depth, and the way Siakam and OG and Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, now Scotty Barnes back. They're coming at Philly in waves and shutting them down. I mean, really just forcing them into a lot of bad possessions. Whereas on the other end, Toronto's efficient, 24-8 assist to turnover ratio in that game, shot 51% from the field. And they've won these last 2 games, Josh, despite shooting 16 for 65 from 3. That's under 25%. They won this last game without a free throw advantage that some might say Scott Foster gave them in that Game 4 to try to even that up. But once again, won the rebounding battle. And yeah, I mean, most importantly, keeping Embiid to 6 free throw attempts rather than the 14 he had been getting without Scotty Barnes in there. That's, sort of the barometer for the Sixers' success on offense is how many attempts is Embiid getting, meaning how hard is it for the other team to deal with him, like I'm saying, because as good as Maxi's looked and Tobias Harris at times, they thrive off the doubles that Embiid draws. Yeah. He's not going to draw them as much when he's hurt like this. And if it's on James Harden to win an elimination game, I'm going to take the other team every time. Not to mention Doc Rivers, who has lost 21 of his last 27 closeout games, most recently blowing a 3-1 lead when he was with the Clippers. This could be it. And it's plus 550 still if you want Toronto to win the next 2 games. Still very good juice there. You could take Philly at plus 180 to lose this one and win at home in game 7. Worth maybe hedging if you are going to take that plus 550. But how fun would it be to say, yep, I bet that first ever 3-0 comeback and it happened.
I don't know. You tell me. You're the one that told me you hit it after I think 3-1 happened before 3-2. Yeah. So so let us know, please. I'm sure you'll report back if that happens. It does seem like it's prime for that, and it all starts with the health and the sort of reverse roles that these teams sort of took on after really game 2 or 3. Once Embiid's injury became a factor, and Scotty Barnes came back, and then Fred VanVleet does continue to look a little bit hobbled, but you still get 3 to 4 minutes a game of peak playoff Fred VanVleet, who's just got huge cojones and loves pulling from all over, and you have to worry about him. And I think that the defense on him has been decent, keeping him sort of out of the lane. But I wonder, once again, how much is that because he's hobbled and the amount of minutes that he's not able to play? I mean, normally you'd see this guy at 40 minutes, maybe 42 minutes, 43 minutes, especially the deeper they go into the playoffs. Nick Nurse just loves to lean on that guy, and that's his man when he's out there. So but you look at the reverse and what's been going on. I mean, even Philly winning the rebounding battle in a couple of the first games in this series as well, and huge reason being Scotty Barnes being out. And then you look at the last couple games, and now we're kind of back to what we thought this series was going to be. And it's not that Philly couldn't even win this game in game 6 here. I'm not saying that they can't, but the reason that I would bet against them right now is Embiid looks hurt. And, when Embiid is off the floor already this season, we're talking about a minus 5.2 net rating for the Sixers, not close to Jokic's minus 10, but still at the same time, minus 5, without him and the way that he's playing right now, like you said. You look at the things that stand out are the difference in rebounding. Obviously, I'm talking about from the point that Embiid starts to get to be hurt, to have pretty much, like you said, a torn, at least maybe sprained ligament in a thumb on his shooting hand. Once that point hit, and coinciding with Scotty Barnes coming back, the rebounding, margin changes and just goes more heavily in favor of the Raptors. Tyrese Maxey is not able to do quite as much because of the fact that he's always standing out on the wing on an island by himself, because there's 2-3 dudes with their eyes on Joel Embiid ready to two dudes playing off of him that are ready to collapse. You can't take, another one off of James Harden. So you're left with Tyrese Maxey occasionally getting open threes. Same with Tobias Harris, getting open threes. And that's not happening anymore. And the 3-point disparity was going in favor of Philly for a bit, even though they are not hoisting that many, but Harden was still putting up, a good percentage there at the beginning in the first game. And then everything just, like I said, you look at when Embiid got hurt, everything just goes way down. And it's because it plays off of him, where he was getting double teamed already the most in the playoffs, actually probably mostly because Trae Young didn't get another game, but he was up there with Embiid in terms of receiving the most double teams. He only played in 5 games, so he's not going to get as many chances to get double teamed anymore after he closed that series out. But I mean, look, Embiid's usage rate, was 5th most amongst players with a legit amount of minutes this season, 29.5% when he's out there. There's no James Harden to be found, and I don't know why people seem to think that he was just going to come out of nowhere. I mean, once he clearly couldn't use the hamstring hobbling him as an excuse for why he's not exploding and getting to the rim. That those numbers without floaters, while it's like it seems silly to some, it's a legit number, because that's his shot. If he's not getting all the way to the rim and he's not shooting a 3, he's getting a floater. Not being able to hit that means he's still forcing it even more to the rim when he's driving, and it's getting stripped. It's sloppy. Doesn't look good. I don't have much hope in them either, unless Embiid can just do what he's been doing all season, which is literally put the team on his back and go. And I don't know if this is the case for him to be MVP more than Jokic, because he's doing the same thing against a much better Warriors team. But at the same time, it's indicative of both of them. So
yeah, Harden's proving you can't just get into shape in the midst of an NBA season. That's not how this works. Like, you got to put in work in the off season. You get one day off maybe to try to ramp up, but now he's just tired because this is why KD was so pissed off in Brooklyn, right? He was like, are you kidding me? This is how you came into the season, Harden? He's looked terrible all season, and he looked good for 5 games with Philly, rejuvenated against a bad competition. And now he just looks like he doesn't have the energy to play off Embiid. Let alone carry this team when Embiid needs his help, especially against a team like Toronto that I keep saying so many versatile bodies to throw at him, make a wall, dare him to beat them from 3 or beat them with a floater. And he can't do it. I would be hammering the Philly under here when I see that team total. But they're averaging 98 points per game these last 3. That's with an overtime in there. Their offensive rating, 103.5. Like I said, barely any more assists than turnovers in that span. And during the regular season, Toronto held them to 103 points per game. And that's with giving up a ton of free throws to Embiid. The pace was 92. Obviously, we like unders in this series, but at 209, I'm not really that big on the team total. I would rather say I think Philly's going to be in there then at 105 or 104 for their team total, since this is such a close spread. And I would go under for them and expect Toronto to win. They're not getting nearly as much value as they were in Game 5, but that's because the line's correct now. And all you have to do is look at Embiid's fading points props to know what the sharps think about this. Right, he goes from 33 to 28 when the injury news comes out of his thumb. Now he's 27.5 with better odds to the under. So if we're not expecting Embiid to get 28 points, and we have so many questions about where Philly's going to find offense otherwise, like their bench is horrible. No Matisse Thybulle, who had 1 field goal on a mistaken putback, by the way. Kyrie Irving, he is not. He can't just jump in and play some of the games and produce offense or even play great defense. So yeah, Philly dangerously thin here. I do kind of get the feeling that they might blow this whole series.
Yeah, it's gonna. The only thing that I would be scared of is Embiid's heroics and him just being Superman and doing what you didn't think he could, because he's just stronger than we realize, and that's not where I'd put my money. That's I think there's a worse chance of that happening. And with that, we talk about the decrease in the ability of other guys. The only thing this scares me is Toronto's now doing what their recipe for success was from the jump, which is force turnovers, get into the transition, get into fast break, finish at the rim. And that's what they're doing. And they don't need to play in the half court, which, as we've talked about, is not very efficient and is not fun to watch. It's kind of a gross half court offense, to be honest. But it is an offense that looks amazing when you get out and go, and you have 4 to 5 guys, depending on who's playing center for them. If it's Scotty Barnes, you've got 5 guys that can get their rebound and run and are big bodied and can get to the rim. And that's what they were doing in Game 6, Game 5, big time, to get that second win. Percentage points in the paint, percentage points off turnovers, and fast break were all high for them, getting a ton of those. So you like that to continue for them with the Philly 76ers just missing a ton of shots and not having a very pretty offense themselves. So under would feel better on that Philly total, no doubt, for sure. So